Hello YouTubers, this is Lilou and I have a very special treat today. I'm interviewing Gadd, the author of What Went Wrong with Mr. Right. Don't we all want to learn from her right now? And I have few questions and I'm very excited to have you live, well for me live right now, but end of afternoon you're in South Africa and I'm here in London, and because with the technology we can speak to each other and I have all those wonderful questions. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you, Lila. It's a lovely day here.
Yes, and I want to get straight in the subject with you, and I have this question about why do relationships fail? And you're describing in your book What Went Wrong with Mr. Right, is that one of the things is that opposite attract each other, and then eventually that's that same thing that we were attracted by in the other person that just drives us crazy and ultimately makes this relationship fails. Can you tell us more about that, because it's quite interesting?
When we, in our search for a relationship, what we're really doing is searching for intimacy, which translates into intimacy, a complete acceptance by one person of ourselves. But what happens is that a lot of our unexpressed aspects of ourselves, what we would call the shadow aspects of ourselves, the hidden parts, the parts that we keep tucked away because usually in our childhood we believed that those things were not acceptable. When we meet someone else, in our desire to be whole, we look for the person who's going to complete the aspects of ourselves that we aren't. Mm-hmm. That is usually a projection of a lot of what we have kept hidden in our shadow. So in other words, we're almost falling in love with the aspects of ourselves that we have yet to explore, which is what makes it so exciting and giddy in the first part. You feel as if you and this person have shared many lifetimes together. Then several weeks down the road, months, years or whatever, you realize why you haven't actually been in contact for the last 15 lifetimes or so on, because you suddenly are repelled by this person. Things that initially might have attracted you to them, you now find unacceptable in their behavior. And what you're really looking at is the aspects of yourself that you find unacceptable within yourself. So let's say that you're very hyperactive and you're A-type personality, you just do. You're attracted now to somebody who's lazy or laid back maybe. And later on down the road, the laid back becomes lazy, and you find yourself getting frustrated with this person. You seem to be doing everything. They seem to do nothing. And that can cause you a lot of frustration. But there's a part of yourself that actually wonders what life would be like if you didn't run around like a mad thing, if you were able to just sit down and relax and without doing something. So you resent that part of yourself when you see it in the other person.
And instead of resenting, we should be accepting, or what is your recommendation then when we realize this?
It's really like a beautiful, complicated dance. We sit on either ends of a seesaw. Whatever you do affects the person on the opposite end of the seesaw. Mm-hmm. So the two of you are linked by this sort of push-pull, up-down scenario. If you want your relationship to change, sitting on one side of the seesaw, hoping that your partner might one day get it and change, it's not going to happen, because actually, why should they? And why is your idea of what they should or shouldn't be actually the right one? So if you want to change a relationship, start with yourself. The more you work on yourself, the more you start being able to accept those parts of yourself that you dislike or that you've kept unexpressed within yourself, the more you will find yourself shifting closer to the fulcrum of that seesaw and towards your partner. And then when you balance out the two opposite archetypes that you're busy enacting on that seesaw, you transcend the need for roles. You become your authentic self. And that's a beautiful place to be.
So then you find a new balance. So when one person is giving in, then the other, it gives the you give the space for the other person to start transforming themselves.
Well, we know that nothing happens without a reaction in the universe. If you drop a stone into the water, it creates movement in that water, which eventually permeates into sort of little mini waves.
Yeah.
So whatever you do on your one side is going to affect what's happening on the other side of the seesaw.
Yeah. So then you're refining a new balance, and wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
And then you're saying also in your book that we're either more fire or more water. Usually men are more fire. They're about doing and achieving. I personally find a lot of women these days, and I would include myself in this, are very fiery, very much acting. So it's more of the fiery type of personality to kind of start this process, whether it's the man or the woman.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't really these days, I think, say men are fire and women are water, although traditionally fire has been associated with masculinity and water with female. That's why we get the sun and the moon as opposites. But if you take them as elements and you see these elements at play within ourselves and in our relationships, fiery personality, chances are will always be attracted to a more watery personality and then dislike them for being more watery. Why aren't you more fiery like me, kind of thing? Because traditionally fire is about metamorphosis, it's about change, it's the phoenix rising. That is often, if you are a fiery person, you might find it easier to engage with the process of change, to actually start working on yourself, than a watery personality where they may find getting the energy and the inspiration to actually make that change harder. Not impossible at all, but maybe a little harder.
Thank you very much, Anne. We're going to stop right here and do a little break and record the part 2 in another video. But thank you so much. Anne Gadd is the author of What Went Wrong with Mr. Right. Awesome, amazing book. Thank you, Anne. I'll see you shortly.
Thank you. Okay.